we're awaiting remarks from President Biden at a trade union event later this hour. He's facing growing pressure to act on the anti-Semitic protests that are sweeping universities across America. Earlier last hour, Biden was asked about if he had a message for the protesters. Watch how he responded.
Mr. President, do you have a message for the protesters on campus?
He walked away. I know another former president that might have not been treated in that same manner. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and host of Making Money on Fox Business, Charles Payne. Now, many people are begging the question, why hasn't President Biden acted to stop these protests? His Department of Education, silent, and Biden himself, he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. Watch.
Do you condemn the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses?
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
What a weird shot. Even FBI Director Christopher Wray admitted that they're not keeping an eye on the protests.
Well, of course, demonstrations themselves are not something that we, the FBI, get involved in.
Are you actively monitoring these protests?
We don't monitor protests.
Well, now one Jewish professor from NYU is blasting the lack of action to stop anti-Semitism, calling out the blatant double standard playing out on college campuses.
I can tell you, if I went into the NYU square with a white hood on and said, lynch the blacks or burn the gays, my ID would be shut off by that night. And I would never work in academia again. There would be no need for the words context or nuance. I wouldn't be protected by terms like First Amendment or free speech. I would be out of the world of academia. It seems like we have a double standard when it comes to hate speech as long as it's against Jews.
You know, I don't understand this. I don't understand why you don't just clearly condemn anti-Semitism, leave it there, move on, why you have to say both things, and why in Politico Playbook today, they say that the administration, Leslie, is not stressing out about what's rolling out, viewing it as an obsession of a subset of the electorate. An obsession? People are chanting that they want October 7th, not once, not 10 times, not 10,000, but many, many times. And they're pointing reporters, at least in Playbook, to a poll showing that just 2% of young people, we have it, will pull it up, consider this to be an issue that will cast their vote upon. Really? They're viewing this through the lens of politics? It's an obsession? No, this is anti-Semitism, point blank.
Well, I think I know Harris, her children are like me. They're half Jewish. I have a Jewish parent, a Christian parent. I'm married to a Muslim. I feel very strongly about issues in the Middle East, and I feel very strongly on both sides. So when I say both sides, I'm concerned about the forthcoming famine in Gaza. I'm certainly concerned about the hostages not being released, and I'm certainly concerned about anti-Semitism anywhere in the world. Here's the thing that I see, if we're going to look at Columbia as an example. Right now, they have met with the leading organization that is going on with these. They've reached certain deals. And then when they talked about National Guard, the talks came to an abrupt halt. They extended the 24-hour get your tents out to 48 hours to clear out. They said no more non-students. That's been part of the problem at a lot of campuses. And then in addition to that, no more anti-Semitic slogans.
What's the administration doing? I mean, other than words that they seem to backpedal on.
Well, first of all, if the National Guard is called in, that would be a call from the governor of the state of New York. And Columbia has made it clear that that's not where they want to go unless they have to.
But the FBI, the DOJ, the Department of Education, you've got all of these agencies at your disposal.
The DOJ wouldn't get involved until it becomes a criminal matter after the police have handled it. The police have handled it. They arrested over 100 kids at Columbia. Columbia has suspended till further notice and some expelled students. And those aren't all Muslim students. Those aren't all foreign students. There were 200 arrested on the Brooklyn Bridge, and they are from Jewish American Voices for Peace.
You know, Harris, I think a lot of people hearing this, what did the Catholics do to get a memo saying there should be plants in the Catholic churches? What did the pro-life community do? These are violent threats we are hearing. A Jewish woman who had her eye hit with a pole. There have been assaults. So yes, DOJ should be involved.
Well, look, I mean, the campus has been all over the road on this. I mean, you give a 48-hour reprieve and lengthening of time to take down the tents. But what are you doing for the Israel students who now have been, I mean, the Jewish students who've been, and some of them are dual citizenship, forced off campus to learn online for their safety. Like, I don't see equal justice here for both sides. And so if the goal is to be fair, the university is failing mightily at that. As far as the Justice Department, oh, good gosh, you could just poke a nose in that out of curiosity. Are these hate crimes? We know crimes are being committed. Otherwise, the police say that they never could have gone on campus. So you've got trespassing and other crimes, too, that they have been looking at. So that's a call already for the DOJ to at least turn an ear to what's going on. I'm curious about what Biden said, though. I even set up a program for those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. What groups of people is he talking about? You have anti-Israel protesters spewing hate, some of them. You have Jewish Americans in fear. And then you have this new third group, I guess, these people who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. Because if he thinks those are the anti-Israel protests, we got real problems. He can't even identify hate in this country. How in the world is he going to knock down anti-Semitism? It's a political year. And if you didn't know it, you know it now.
You know it now. And Emily, this was kind of lost in Monday's coverage of what happened at this Earth Day event. You had AOC who made this statement, essentially condoning the protests with these violent calls, these anti-Semitic words. And then what was missed was what Biden said directly after her. Listen to this.
It is especially important that we remember the power of young people shaping this country today, of all days, as we once again witness the leadership of those peaceful student-led protests on campuses like Columbia, Yale, Berkeley, and many others.
And Representative Ocasio-Cortez in New York, you know, I learned a long time ago, listen to that lady. Listen to that lady.
So how would the media react if a Republican congresswoman got up, condoned anti-Semitic protest, and then, let's say, former President Trump got up and praised that congresswoman and said, I learned to listen to her? Would he be given the same grace and total ignoring of the media? Of course not.
Yeah, of course not. I find, too, the silence is deafening from former President Barack Obama, who graduated from Columbia in 1983, right? He took time out on Monday to post about Passover. No mention of the hideous, appalling display that's occurring on his alma mater's campus. And I think we've seen it clearly is not a Democrat-Republican issue, because there are plenty of people who have a D next to their name who have stood up for and stood against this anti-Semitic behavior. Chuck Schumer, who, you know, if I'm praising him, you know it's a good day. He came out so clearly. He said, everyone has a right to protest, of course, but when they shift to anti-Semitism, verbal abuse, intimidation, or glorification of the terrorist activity on October 7th, of course that crosses the line. Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand, she came out, she called it appalling. She said that has no place here in New York City. There is a way to say, yes, to your point, I feel for humans in this capacity, and yet there is a zero tolerance for anti-Semitism. And I note that the Department of Education under Biden's watch, the DOJ, all of his other agencies are real quick to be quite firm about, for example, lifting up transgender rights and drawing that line starkly. You can never say anything bad about this. You can never do this. And yet there are such crickets when it comes to anti-Semitism. Why is it so hard for them to condemn this blatant hate?
Charles, so, you know, there's nothing the administration can do, we're told. Well, a former aide of mine, Chad Gilmartin, sent me a brilliant idea. I want to pull this up. Here's something President Biden could do. President Biden must answer, will his administration cancel the student loans of any student disciplined for harassing or threatening a Jewish student? Fantastic idea.
Yeah, but the answer is no. We came in with that sound bite of Scott Galloway, Professor Galloway. And I've had many battles with him. He's a progressive. He's got progressive economic ideas. And what he did is he laid it out there so amazingly. Not only this, but this equivocation of, you know, Israel has gone too far. And he reminded Americans, hey, you know, how far we went in World War II. You know how many Japanese died to have to bring that war to an end. There was no equivocation. They lost a lot more people than we did after we were attacked. So this moral high ground of telling Israel when they can stop going after the leadership of who slaughtered those people on October 7th, and then what President Biden is doing is just so it's unbelievable. Stop talking out both sides of your mouth. This is not a either or. This is there's one issue right now, anti-Semitism. Address that Bottom line.
Yep, and you make a great point. The civilian combatant ratio is lower in Israel than it was in Mosul, than it was in Japan in World War II, and then it was in Germany. So those are facts. Go look them up.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.